Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for spending some time with us today on the Network Society and Startup stage. What we're going to talk about is a topic that's very near and dear to our hearts here at Tessco Technologies, and that's really around the road ahead and the future of fleet management and telematics. So as we get started today, I want to introduce, this is Pranav Badwar. He works with me over at Tessco. My name is Steve Tom. I'm the Vice President of Solutions Innovation and Analytics here at Tessco Technologies. So you see the fleet vendors in the floor here at the show today. You see us here at Tessco. The golden era of fleet management continues. As you're seeing up here on the chart, between 2013 and 2018, the market in North America for fleet management devices, the number of installed units, is going to double. And we continue in this year, 2015, to track right along with that trend right now. Equally as important, for those of you who are interested in Latin America, you see a very, very similar trend in the Latin American region. And so what you're seeing is really a doubling of the number of fleet management installed units you're seeing out in the field today. And we only anticipate that to continue. As you see, in the very early days of fleet, you saw very large enterprises. You saw the UPSs and the logistics firms of the world doing a lot of fleet management and telematics. Now we're starting to see that spread into the more mid-sized companies, and companies where fleet and logistics isn't their primary core competency. And so you're seeing this doubling here, and we only anticipate that to continue. So that golden era, we only anticipate that's going to continue to pick up. Now, why do people actually go in and look at fleet management solutions in today's marketplace? Well, first, they're looking to optimize driver behavior. So that's things like speeding, hard braking, but it's also things like good driving habits. Are they following too close? Some sensors can actually pick that up now. The second thing that they're looking at is fuel savings. So, a lot of people, when they look into the fleet space, they're looking for, how do I get the most optimal route, set some targets for my people and some waypoints for me to save some money on fuel and gasoline, especially when you're talking about vehicles that aren't exactly, your hybrids or your most fuel economy friendly cars on the roads today. Third, route productivity. So again, optimizing that route from A to B. 64%, right, when you ask folks, well, why do they go after a fleet solution? 64% will tell you, well, it's because I want to really optimize the number of stops, the routing, make sure that I'm making the best use of my limited resources and my limited fleet and my limited driver resources today. So fourth, accident reduction, right? What accident reduction is all about is safe driving, right? So it goes very closely with driver behavior, but also people want to have this information in case they're in an accident. How many people have seen the Russian dash cam videos, right? Why do people do that? Because there's a huge amount of scamming going on in Russia of people crashing into your car and then saying you're liable for it, right? So accident reduction is a big topic. 40% of respondents in the survey said, you know what, I want it to help me reduce my potential accidents. And then lastly, sustainability, right? Understanding, okay, if I'm more efficient with my resources, if I'm using data to help me be more efficient with my fleet, I'm going to help the environment. I'm also going to be more fuel efficient, reduce my carbon footprint. And so you see a lot of organizations trying to go more green by implementing fleet management and telematics solutions in the marketplace. All right, so 5 emerging trends that we as Tessco see in the marketplace today that we believe will change the face of fleet telematics over the next several years. And some of these things we're going to share with you today are things that you may already be starting to see in limited pockets, but are things that we think are going to become mainstream in the next couple of years as companies continue to modernize their fleets and take a more proactive approach in driving big data out of their fleets. And so first, automating action to insight. What that's really about is using the power of the information coming from the vehicles, but then having the systems, the big data systems, the analytic systems, automatically make decisions on what to do with the vehicle. Okay, so that's going to be, I think, an emerging trend that you're going to see as big data becomes more and more critical in the space, but also you're going to see it become more automated. You're going to see a whole new breed of companies that are just going to feature automatic decision making for fleets. And we'll talk more about each one of these as we get into them. Secondly, biometrics and wearables. How many people are wearing a Fitbit right now or a smartwatch, right? Drivers are going to be wearing them, right, when they drive their trucks. And we'll talk about why that's coming up and why other wearables are going to be taking hold in the fleet space over the next several years. Third, the rise of the sharing economy. How many of you knew that Uber actually provides delivery services now? Right, that you can actually have Uber pick up something for you across town and bring it to you. Imagine that in the more of the B2B space and more of the traditional industrial logistics space. We'll talk about that again, each of these in more detail as we come up. The merging of mobile apps and fulfillment, right? So drivers today, fleet managers, they're all carrying mobile devices, apps, to do all sorts of things aside from just verifying that something was fulfilled. So we'll talk about that one here coming up. And then last, the Internet of Things going beyond the vehicle, right? So it's not just about the sensors that are on board, but it's the sensors that the vehicle is interacting with in its environment when it's not on the vehicle. It's interacting with traffic sensors. It's interacting with toll booths. All different sorts of interactions are going on beyond telematics, and we believe that will become more and more integrated system in the next few years. So let's first start talking about automating action, right? So you've got many vehicles out there today that are collecting this information about where the truck is, what its operational state is, what's going on, and it's all getting pushed, right, to a data store. Now, I think one of you guys, or several of you have heard over the years, 80% of companies that are collecting big data aren't even using it, right? Don't know how to use it, don't know what to use it for. And so a lot of companies have said, well, I'll just throw an analyst at it, or I'll use some BI package and I'll be able to do it. What we believe is actually take that a step further. We believe in having the analytics platform and the software actually schedule the maintenance at the shops for you. You may have heard of that today. What you may not have heard is that maybe it will become a reverse auction going forward, where actually the software will select the maintenance provider based on which one's going to offer them the best service, the best deal, the best experience. So imagine that automation coming to the front of the line versus today just saying, you know what, the vehicle is telling me, hey, I need maintenance because of how much time it's been out on the road. And so service appointments, scheduling, it's all doing that logic for you and using the power of big data. And the result, right, is the vehicles then are now smarter, the decisions are being made for them. And again, you're starting to see some of that today. We only see that accelerating over the next couple of years. All right, biometrics and wearables. So how many folks, and I'm guessing I've got some fleet managers in the audience, use kind of the touch keys or some sort of driver ID system when somebody goes into a vehicle today? Okay, so they've proven to be pretty reliable over the years. I think what you're going to see, though, is the next step going to biometric verification. Why? Well, because keys can be stolen. Keys can be shared. Biometric verification, you are who you are unless somebody cuts your finger off, right? Like Mission Impossible, right? But other than that, you are who you are. It knows who you are, right? And I can verify that that's the right driver for the right vehicle at the right time. And so we see biometric verification getting a lot more mature. We know in the early days it wasn't very good at verifying things, but we see that maturing, getting a lot better, and being a very valid fleet application going forward. How many of you have had the experience with Google Glass? Anyone gotten to wear Google Glass? Okay, I've actually gotten to wear Google Glass, but we're going to see, I think, in fleet, the advent of augmented reality. What that's going to be is heads-up displays where the drivers are wearing their glasses, heads-up displays in the vehicles that are not only navigating them, but they're redirecting them, they're making their routes dynamic, they're actually superimposing things over top of what they're doing to say, you know what, I'm looking at this thing that I'm about to deliver. Is it the right product? Is it the right customer? Am I in the right location? And it's going to do that verification, and it's going to do that all through the augmented reality, right? Through the glasses, right? Okay, and then in the beginning, I talked about wearables, right? I'm wearing a smartwatch right now. It's tracking my heart rate. It's tracking where I am. It's giving me my email. The top picture is actually something that Nissan produced. and it's actually coordinating with the vehicle on the driver's kind of biological, heart rate, all sorts of other metrics, and it's communicating that information back and forth. So that's a consumer application that they're using with their, with their sports cars and convertibles today. Imagine that in the B2B industrial fleet management space. Knowing that the driver is awake, aware, can drive, isn't about to have a heart attack. Those types of things you could see happening with wearables very, very soon, and having drivers wear these so that not only the wearable is getting their bodily kind of indicators, but it's also alerting them to things right when they're in the truck or outside of the truck doing a delivery. So you could also see wearables serving that function as well in the fleet space. The other piece here is actually tracking eye movements. So Volvo has done some work to track the eye movements of a driver to make sure that the driver's not distracted and that the driver is actually in good kind of healthy condition. Right? So imagine a driver getting into an 18-wheeler, having their eye movements tracked to make sure, okay, they're paying attention to the road, they're in good working order, they're in great health and condition, and they're making sure that they're going to be very safe on the road. So biometrics and wearables, we see that moving into the fast lane over the next several years here in fleet management. The rise of the sharing economy, right? So we talked about Uber. We definitely see logistics companies introducing more and more independent delivery contractors who are going to have fleet telematics devices in their trucks that are going to deliver anything. So they're not going to be one provider or exclusive. They're going to be working for anybody and using reverse auctions and rates, dynamic rates, to optimize their time and their inventory. Same thing for the actual logistics companies, right? They're going to be able to optimize their variable staffing and their variable trucks, right? Especially in times like holidays or high volume periods. Roving mobile inventory, having trucks that are driving around town with inventory on board all the time so that they can restock other trucks. They can actually provide backup and support. Dynamic dispatch, that's one I think that folks are probably most familiar today with, being able to go around and actually change the truck's routing on the fly, right, based on where it needs to be. And then driver for hire, very, very close to independent delivery contractor. Driver for hire is just you're getting a driver who's got a CDL license, maybe they don't have their own vehicle. So we see the sharing economy and the rise of on-demand really going to be changing the face of fleet telematics and the face of how logistics companies operate. And the core of that is having that telematics device in the vehicle, right, to be able to provide that information assurance to the logistics company and to the provider. Fourth, merging mobile apps and fulfillment, right? So what we see is, people carrying around the mobile phones in their vehicle, and what are they going to be doing with that when they go in and talk and do a delivery? Well, cross-sell. So the telematics device interacting with the mobile phone to say, here's where I am. Now here's the mobile phone saying, here's the customer and here's what they've recently bought. And then the person doing the delivery saying, you know what, here's some other things you might want to consider buying either while I'm here or when I'm going to make my next delivery. Digital commerce, right? Apple Pay, ePay, transacting business over the mobile phone. And then lastly, gamification, right? So it's one thing to use the stick to try to administer your drivers, to try to administer your staff. It's another thing to actually make it fun and add some gamification to it through mobile apps. So imagine drivers earning points and rewards for cutting route times down, cutting delay times down, doing on-time deliveries. And so then in IoT beyond telematics, as I said in the beginning, we see this as becoming, the vehicle as part of an integrated ecosystem, right, with all of the environment and all the different devices and sensors around it. So for example, we work with a company that does produce delivery, right? They have keys to access the different restaurants and places that they need to get into. What if it was just based on the vehicle pulling up to the location and the driver having the right credential on their phone, right? So not having to distribute keys, which you easily lose track of. Validation and verification, right? When a produce truck pulls up, the manager shoots a gun into the back, a temperature gun, not a real gun, temperature gun into the back, and says, well, what's the temperature of those vegetables? I'm not going to accept it if it's a degree over 36 degrees. You can now have the vehicle automatically provide that information when it arrives. You don't have to do that anymore. And then lastly, refill quantity and tank levels so that when a vehicle pulls up, it knows how much to be putting into a tank. That, I think you already see pretty robustly today. We at Tessco, we support the total ecosystem, right? So it's not just about the devices, it's about the mounts, it's about the connectivity in the vehicle, the power, the backup, the vehicle is a hotspot itself. And so we see, again, this is today's ecosystem over here on the right-hand side. What we're seeing on the left-hand side is where we see it evolving and eventually evolving into intelligent transportation systems, which you may be hearing about, where the vehicles are interacting with stoplights, toll booths, weight sensors, compliance sensors, state line sensors. So, we see, again, the vehicle being a part of that ecosystem that is now interacting with an entire environment around it, not just what's on the vehicle. And I think that's important as we begin to look forward. So now I'm going to turn things over to Pranav. He's going to share with you some of the things that Tessco is already doing today to help make fleet management a better experience and a more smooth and ROI immediate experience for customers and enterprises today. Pranav.
Thank you, Steve. You guys probably thought I was Steve's bodyguard, but I actually do solution development as well. So here we go. The journey for M2M, for if you happen to know anything about machine-to-machine, is very complex. You have many options for devices, many options for tracking platforms, many options for wireless data providers, not only the carriers, but also the resellers. And navigating that maze of what works together and who to go to and what those benefits are is very complex. Secondly, once you've made a determination of what vendors you're going to go with and what solution components you'll have, you'll end up with a number of different vendors between who you'll have to coordinate to deliver that actual project. Third, you could actually select a vendor that has bundled together 2 or maybe 3 components of the key solution, but ultimately you're very often limited to a single tracking platform, a single brand of devices, or a single wireless data provider. Now, there are a lot of small vendors. It's a relatively new space. It's not very mature. Even in fleet management, there are a lot of small vendors in machine-to-machine, and they're all great vendors, by the way, but you don't know whether the sole proprietor is going to retire, whether the small company will be acquired, and that will impact the customer relationship and the customer experience. So what we're looking to do at Tessco is address this issue where you have a slow realization of the return on investment and a customer journey that is complex and somewhat risky. So how does Tessco handle this? Right? Tessco is in the business of being a single source for the end-to-end from design through to rollout, providing a single touch point, if you will, a single throat to choke for the customer. We vastly simplify the solution selection. So while we don't have every option under the sun, we have curated these options, made sure they work together, and what we're offering is a range of options that fit different budgets and different value propositions. We also accompany those with core Tessco products that we have today, which help create a total in-vehicle solution. So you don't have to go out and look for that one component, that vehicle mount, that antenna, the cable, to make that total solution work. We can bring that all in. And then finally, we've been around for a long time. Over 35 years of delivering wireless solutions into the enterprise. We will not be bought, but we will have our products bought, of course. What this adds up to ultimately is that we offer a range of options that allow customers to quickly determine an option that fits their budget and their needs. We can quickly deploy solutions from a trusted vendor, and we accelerate the productivity realization and the cost enhancement. So just to recap what this means in the fleet space, we have a variety of devices and sensors. We have a number of different wireless data options as well. We provide tracking platforms that have different levels of sophistication and come in at different price points. We provision devices, we script them, we configure the platforms, develop reports, train customers, kit the devices, ship them to the point of use, get the installation taken care of, basically the whole kit and caboodle. This is just a glimpse of our tracking platform, and you can see that at the points where the vehicle reported its location, there's also a date and timestamp that's hard to see, and a vehicle speed. There's a portion where the driver clearly went into a shopping mall, which may or may not be okay depending on their job responsibilities. But there's a win-win if it's not, and that is that you sit down with the driver and say, hey, look, if we can get our fuel costs down, get our mileage down, reduce our insurance costs, maybe that'll be reflected in your quarterly bonus. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Steve to recap the additional solutions.
Great, thank you, Pranav. So, first of all, thank you again for being with us today. Fleet represents for us, an exciting new series of IoT, machine-to-machine solutions that Tessco is launching over the next several months. And so, as Pranav said, we offer the total solution, a one-stop shop, an easy, simple route to ROI for customers and enterprises. And we're looking to do that across fleet telematics, asset tracking, so that would be your more traditional cargo containers, agricultural equipment, construction equipment, and then also monitoring of tanks. And so you will continue to see Tessco innovate in these spaces and continue to participate in that movement as we see fleet evolve from what it is today to the road ahead. Thank you very much for your time today. These are our contacts right here, myself, Pranav, and Dave Compier, who is our solution salesperson. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have questions or want to have a conversation with us about how we can help your enterprise. Thank you very much. Have a great day.